How you doing, everyone? It's Rafi from Case Suspension again, and today what we're going to be doing is installing the Iron Rock Offroad Hack and Tap SYE into a 231 transfer case on our 2001 Jeep Cherokee. Now, a couple things about this. This kit is available online. I'll go ahead and put the link in the description below. Another thing you're going to need is going to be this drill bit jig. It helps just keep everything centered while you're drilling through that output shaft. And if you have the cone style flange on the end of your transfer case, you're going to need this flange adapter here. This is also sold by Iron Rock. Again, I'll throw the link in the description below. Check them out. Great price for a great product, and I'm going to show you guys how to put it in. First thing we got to do is go ahead and remove the drive shaft from the vehicle. So we're going to go ahead and unbolt these 4 bolts here that go to the yoke, slide this drive shaft out, and then we'll get started on the transfer case. Alright, so for those of you guys with the newer XJs and you have this boot right here that goes onto your yoke, there are these bands here. I found it easier just to cut these babies off, get rid of this. If you want to put it back on, you can use a hose clamp to snitch it back down. Otherwise, you can take it off, get yourself a lot more access to the splines. Okay, so now that we got the drive shaft out of the vehicle, we're going to have to go ahead and measure our new drive shaft. So in this instance, we're using a front drive shaft as a rear. So we got to measure it. We're going to go from end to end, and we got about 32 1/4 as far as the collapsed length goes. Now, it's important to note this measurement because on the output shaft of the transfer case, you're going to have to leave at least 1 1/4 of full splines after it's been cut. So we're going to have to go mock this up, measure it to see if we're going to have enough to cut or if we need a custom drive shaft. So now we're going to go ahead and measure out our drive shaft length. We had 32 1/8, or 1/4, sorry. So here we're going to measure out, and looks like we're going to have plenty of room. So at 32 1/4 puts us at about right here, which leaves us with about a good usable about 1.5 inches of full spline. So we're going to go ahead and measure back to about 32 15/16. And that should give us about 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 more spline count. So we're going to cut this shaft off right over there. Let's get started. All right, so what we're going to do is go ahead and cut off this output shaft. Very, very important. Wear safety glasses, a face shield preferably. You're really, really close here to a lot of dangerous things. Just make sure you hold your head steady. Keep it going in a one smooth, continuous motion. What we're going to do is actually start the vehicle, put it in low gear so that this output shaft spins for us. Let the cutoff wheel do its job. Don't force it, don't push it, just try to keep a nice straight line. You can go a little bit outside of what you're intending to cut just to give you enough room to grind it smooth. Let's do this. Start her up. So we got our output shaft cut off. Be careful, this is very, very warm. Now we get to clean this up with a flap disc, grind it nice and smooth, and we'll be ready to go ahead and start drilling. One very important thing to remember is after you've got the output shaft all ground smooth, chamfer up the edges, you want to go ahead and take your Hack and Tap SYE here, slide it on, and push it all the way back. One thing you'll notice, and you can test with the actual bolt, put it in the centering hole to where you know it's going to be holding. And in this case, what happened is that the back of this SYE is actually hitting the transfer case output shaft. So we're going to go ahead and put a bolt in there, find out exactly where it's hitting, mark it with a quick marker, and then go ahead and measure that out. And whatever that measurement is, go ahead and cut it off the back of the Hack and Tap. There's about, I'd say, 1 inch of room here that you can cut off in order to make room so it doesn't hit back here. All right, so we went ahead and measured out just shy of 1/2 inch here on the Hack and Tap yoke. We're going to go ahead and cut this piece right here off so that we can go put it back on and see if it's going to fit. All right, so now that you got the back end all cut off and ground smooth, go ahead and slide her on, and look at that, perfectly on there. Now we can go ahead and set it up with the jig and start drilling. All right, so for this part, you want to go ahead and grab a punch or whatever it is that you like to use as a form of hitting a centering pin. Measure out your output shaft and go ahead and give it a little love tap right in the center here so you can get your drill bit started properly. Perfect. Now what I did is I actually wrapped my drill bits in tape. So you want to go down to 1 1/8 inches. That's all you want to drill. So mark your drill bit however it is that you'd like. Starting out with a 1/4 inch and then moving on to the 5/16. So that way we can just get that pilot hole drilled out. So we're going to go ahead and get this guy going. Alright, so now that we got our 1/4 inch pilot hole drilled out, we're going to go ahead and grab our jig here, slide it over. Now, what this jig is here for is for your 5/16 drill bit. It's actually going to help you keep this centered in there so you're not wobbling around when you go put your threads in. So, as you guys saw us cutting the 1/4 inch out earlier, we had the transfer case in drive gear. It was actually in low gear, and I was spinning the transfer case the opposite way as I was drilling. It does help speed up the drilling process a little bit. You don't have to do it that way. It is an option though. So what we're going to do is actually the same concept here with the larger drill bit so that we can then tap it and bolt everything back together. Alright, so now that we got our larger hole drilled out, we're going to go ahead and tap it. What we're using here is a 3/8 by 16 tap. Make sure you use some good threading oil. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and get this tapped out. Alright, so now that we got our hole tapped, we're going to go ahead and take the bolt that's included with the kit and give it a little test. Make sure she threads in, and looks like we are golden. So what we're going to do is go ahead and take this back out, slide your hack and tap over, and we're going to go ahead and get this baby covered in red Loctite and drill them in. So we all know how red Loctite works. The only difference is I am going to smother this thing. So now that we got our center bolt in, we're going to go ahead and torque it down to 30 foot-pounds. There we go. Click of approval. So now we can go ahead and get our drive shaft on. One thing to remember is that these bolts for the double cardone up front go in from the back. So get yourself a 1/4 inch ratchet, you'll be able to snug them down. So now that we got the front drive shaft on the rear, we're gonna go ahead and grease it up. Alright guys, so that does conclude our install of the Hack and Tap kit from Iron Rock Off-Road. Huge shout out to Iron Rock, amazing product, amazing results. So with that being said, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Check out our website at casesuspensionlifts.com. And as usual, from all of us here at Case Suspension to you, happy trails.